Don't forget, we won't be here in the court of public opinion in the garage on Thursday because we're honouring that very important day called Anzac Day, which I think is more than perhaps some of the lefties amongst us are doing. Why, I don't know, because whether you're right or left, the problem is that we should be patriotic, shouldn't we? We should honour those people who gave so much so that we could enjoy this wonderful country. Anyway, that's later in the week. Peter Clayton behind the camera. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. A couple of people said to me, you're always going on about these electric cars and the danger that they represent with, you know, blowing up and catching fire and all that sort of stuff. And there you were with an old 1954 Talbot, Alpine Sunbeam Talbot, and it catches fire. You think it might be some sort of divine retribution. You've been tempting the battery gods.
Well, it did take nearly 80 years or something to catch fire, so...
Well, yeah, it takes 80 years to catch fire, that's true. And with all of the cars that I've been collecting for almost half a century, that sort of thing's never happened before. That was a freak or a fluke or something like that. But there'll be a forensic examination and they'll eventually be able to tell me what went wrong. But yeah, I take your point. I take your comment that, you know, don't tempt the battery gods. But every day, every couple of days, there is an event with a lithium-ion battery, and the fire people, the fire brigade people, did say when we were putting it out, or they were putting it out, it's a good thing it's not a lithium-ion battery fire because we can't control those. You can't put water on. It doesn't do any good. In fact, it makes the problem worse. So I don't resile from the fact that I cannot help but believe that conventional cars with an internal combustion engine are a far better option for transport than anything else. And
I will not be buying an electric car ever.
God bless you, I won't be either. But even if you could stand up there with your hand on your heart and say, I am recharging this battery with solar and wind power electricity, which of course nobody can. If you can't do that, the whole thing is a charade. It's a waste of time, it's a diversion, but it's a hell of an expensive one into which we are being intimidated, or they're trying to intimidate us into getting these electric cars, which I don't believe are a good idea. Pete, do you watch women's football?
Yeah, occasionally I do, yes.
What's wrong with it?
I don't really know. I mean, it's getting better. It is getting better, but I think you're saying the ratings are going down.
Yeah, we were talking earlier. The TV ratings are down 70%, Pete, 70%, and the attendances are down 60%. It would cause somebody to at least think, if not ask some questions. Anyway, speaking about sport, it's less than 100 days till the Paris Olympic Games get underway. You may be planning to go over there and enjoy it. You may all be already packing, I don't know. But do the Olympics still pull a crowd? Pete, will you sit around and watch them on television?
I do watch some of it, I do, yes.
You'll pick and choose?
Yeah.
I don't know if they rate on television. But no, that's of course where the money is. Because, you know, the station, Channel 9, I think, is the Olympic station, and they're going to sort of hive off some of the financial responsibility, no doubt, to their radio stations, 2GB and 3AW and 4BC and 6PR. But nevertheless, it would cost them, for the rights to broadcast the Olympic Games, millions of dollars. Now, whether they'll get that back again is a moot point. Because sponsors may like the prestige of being associated with the Olympic Games, But if there aren't the viewers there to watch the commercials placed within the coverage of the Olympic Games, what's the point? Team uniforms were revealed on Wednesday. It's all part of the circus. But skateboarding and break dancing, Olympic sports? What about marbles? Or tiddlywinks? Or skipper rope? I don't understand it. It's as far as you could have possibly, it's as far as you could possibly get from the original Greek games where all the athletes were stark naked. And they tell me that sometimes even when they were at war, they'd stop the war, and even the people with whom they were warring would take part in the games. It's very strange. Sport, I mean. I was away on the day at school when they indoctrinated all the kids into the wonderful world of sport. Not me. After Brisbane, which is 2032, I think, they will probably find it harder and harder to get anyone to come forward and take on the Olympic Games. I don't know what you think, Pete, but I think they should just go back to Athens and remain there. So much cheaper. Just keep the infrastructure. Good for tourism.
I think so. I think it's a good idea.
Simple idea. Yeah. The cost of seeking justice. Why is it so expensive? Why? What made me think of this is that I was listening to Hugh Grant, you know, the very famous English actor, Notting Hill and all those other, you know, what do they call them? Rom-coms. Anyway, he's dropped his defamation case against News Limited. This is the one that he brought against the papers because he alleged that they had invaded his privacy. You know, I mean, newspapers here have been doing that sort of thing for years. I remember they used to go through people's rubbish. You know, people who would put out the rubbish on rubbish collection day, and some poor hapless person in the newspaper office would be given the job of going through the rubbish to try and find something compromising. You know, they did this leading up to one of the elections. It's an angle, isn't it? It's different. They went through Bob Hawke's rubbish, and all they found was beer bottles. And because he was up against Andrew Peacock, they went through Peacock's rubbish, and all they could find were party hats and soft drink bottles. The joys of fatherhood. I don't know how edifying it would have been. But anyway, what happened with Hugh Grant is that he said, even if I won the case, and he's a rich man, even if I won the case, it would cost me $20 million. Now that shouldn't be. Shouldn't be. So we don't have, in any part of the Western world, I don't think, we don't have a justice system, we have a legal system. With a lot of lawyers on permanent picnic duty. Here's a question. Are you a protester? Pete, have you ever gone out and protested?
No, I was tempted to once in my life.
What was the subject?
The Franklin Dam.
Oh, the Franklin Dam, yes. It was a crazy idea to flood the... Oh.
That was insane.
Yeah. Insane.
It cost the Liberal Party the election, I think.
Oh, quite likely. Lake Pedder, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a beautiful, pristine part of the world which you'd want to, at all costs, preserve. But I don't know, we might talk about this on Friday when we're live streaming around the dining room table, 9 to 12, jeremycordeaux.com. What would it take to get you to the streets? What would it take to get you to demonstrate? To be a protester? The Herald Sun in Melbourne on Friday said that Melbourne was not only the protest capital of Australia, it was in fact the protest capital of the world. God, good God. 560, I think it was, 560 different protests in the last 12 months. The right to protest versus the inconvenience to the general public. And then, of course, there is rent a crowd, people, kids, agitators, activists, people who will turn up for any protest, on any issue, just to sort of try to give society a bit of inconvenience and hopefully a black eye. Keep in mind that these people can disrupt, they can paralyse a whole city. Is that their inalienable right? I don't know. I wouldn't have thought so. Why not have a speaker's corner? You know, like they had in Sydney when I was growing up. There was a place that was called the Domain. And it was a big park. I think they've got the Carl Expressway running right through it these days, but it was a great big green area. And people could and would gather there and stand on a stump or a box and try and get a crowd. And a lot of politicians of the day honed their skills, in fact, learned their trade in this very rough and tumble manner, because people, when you're up on a stump or the back of a ute, sometimes, I guess, well, I suppose not back in the 50s, you wouldn't have had a loud hailer or a PA system, but these days I suppose you could do that to reach more people. But, you know, they would throw rotten fruit at you, if you were lucky. Rocks could, of course, always been a possibility. But it gave birth to some wonderful characters. And they weren't just rowdy, annoying people trying to get in the way of other people's lives. Some of them were very eloquent, creative people. Some would get up there and quote Shakespeare. I don't know if they pulled a crowd. But there were rebel rousers, there were union leaders, all kinds of different people. Pacifists, warmongers. There was a wonderful woman in Sydney called B. Miles, who was the most eccentric person you could ever meet. I don't know if they ever made a movie about B. Miles or wrote a book about her, but she was legendary. She would get in a taxi and, look, I think I won't go on with that, but she was absolutely shameless, incredible. She could quote Shakespeare, any verse she could. She was a very well-educated woman, but totally, absolutely mad, but enormously entertaining.
Well, I'm waiting to hear the story after we push the stop button.
Yes. Well, I'm only going on legend and gossip. But anyway, she was quite a character. B. Miles. Google B. Miles. I'm sure you'll find a lot of stories about her. I'd be surprised if you didn't. But protests. Do we have the right to stuff up other people's lives? I don't know. I really don't. What do you think of democracy? Democracy. Our Premier, Peter Malinauskas, obviously doesn't think very much of democracy. I'm reading between the lines. I was watching him explain how the Aboriginal voice to state parliament was going to work. Now, Aboriginals themselves weren't interested enough to come out and vote, to be part of it. An absolutely dismal turnout. Anyway, the Premier said they'll get the hang of it. This is just the first year. They'll get the hang of it. Wait a minute, Premier. Wait a minute. I thought it was their idea. So we're going to wait around for them to get the hang of it? You were responding to their demand for a voice, weren't you? What have I got wrong here, I wonder? Clearly there is no demand among Aboriginal people for your voice. But I'll skip over that. Back to democracy. The democratic decision, overwhelmingly, of the Australian people was no to the voice. So what is it about no that you don't understand, sir? Or are you saying, oh well, look, stuff democracy, stuff the people, I'll just do what I want? And this is the man who runs the joint. I've never met him. Looks like a nice bloke, quite presentable, but clearly an ideologue. The huge financial burden we all carry with this state government's obsession with outside contractors. Contractors. It's obviously not just this state, of course, it's all state governments and the federal government as well, truly all in the clutches of the money-making machine that is the consulting industry. Now, let me quote from last Wednesday's Advertiser, if I can remember, not perhaps word for word, but Australian taxpayers cough up more than $3.2 million a day to the state government to hire outside help. Did you know that? $3.2 million a day we pay for the government to hire outside help. And more than 50 local and overseas firms cash in as government departments and agencies spend at least 278, close enough to $300 million on external consultants and contractors in just this last financial year. Despite the public service, in the same period of time, growing in size by nearly 1,700 workers. 1,700 extra workers, all those consultants. This is clearly, ladies and gentlemen, outrageous. But do I hear the opposition, the independents? I mean, sure, it was on the front page of the paper. That's something. But the opposition, the independents, they should be there pulling these people into line and demanding an explanation. Do I hear a squeak out of anyone about any of this? Now, I've been on about consultants for years, and it can be fixed. You just have to hire competent people for the public service, because clearly you haven't done that, or you don't think they're competent. I don't know what the problem is. Hire competent people for the public service and they will do the job. There's absolutely no reason why any government should want to have an incompetent public service and then have to supplement it with expensive consultants. What in God's name are we doing? You can do one or you can do the other. Okay? In my opinion, you can hire the consultants and get rid of the public service, or you can hire the public service and get rid of the consultants. But you can't bloody well do both. That, in my humble opinion, is only sensible. Now listen, one of our great sponsors, and I love them dearly, Jimmy Elder and Helen at Elder Fine Art would like me to remind you that if you have any paintings that you, I won't say doubtful about, but curious about maybe, you like it, great aunt gave it to the family or something, you think to yourself, well, what am I going to do? Do I hang it on the wall or do I sell it? Well, maybe Jim Elder, if he had a little look at it and gave you an appraisal, it would make up your mind. Because a lot of us, and I don't think I am, but you know, it's a wonderful little fantasy to have in the back of your mind that a painting that you might not even be terribly attracted to could be worth an absolute fortune. So have a talk to the people at Elder Fine Art. I'll give you the number, Jim Elder, on 8267 2869. 8267 2869, and he is currently looking for paintings for sale at his upcoming auction. I'm not sure exactly when it'll be. I'll let you know, of course. One of our sponsors, along with the Rising Sun Inn, here in the Court of Public Opinion. 23rd it is. Happy birthday or happy wedding anniversary if you're having a special day. P.L. Travers, Australian English writer. Do you know who she is?
No.
Isn't that funny? Everybody knows the book she wrote, which was Mary Poppins. No one remembers her name. Not like Enid Blyton or, you know, all of the rest of them. P.L. Travers. P.L. Travers. She dies at 96. A very wealthy lady. 1996 was the year. The new Coke debuts. Coca-Cola announced it was changing its secret flavour formula. There's a perfect example of the 12-year-old in the marketing department comes in and says, oh, I know you're the best-selling soft drink in the world, but let's change it. Let's change it. It was one of the great marketing disasters of the world. New Coke. Just remember, if anyone ever comes to you, if you've got a product or a business and they want you to change, maybe it's not the smartest thing to do. 1985. In 1344, on this day, Order of the Garter was founded by the English King Edward III, the most senior knighthood in the UK, with just 24 living members plus the monarch. It's Britain's highest civic or military honour, the Order of the Garter. I think Robert Menzies was personally given the Order of the Garter by Queen Elizabeth. Sotheby's begins a 4-day auction of Jackie Onassis stuff. They take in $34.5 million. 1996 on this day. Queen Victoria and Napoleon III turned down plans for I won't say a channel, but a tunnel under the English Channel. I don't think either Queen Victoria or Napoleon wanted to cosy up. Might have been just a bit too convenient to have a tunnel under there. That was in 1867. But they eventually got a channel. Shirley Temple, actress, famous actress of the 1930s, and diplomat. I talked to her when she was a diplomat in, where was she, Barbados or one of those places? Shirley Temple Black. She was a lovely lady. I've got a picture of her over there as a 3-year-old. Shirley Temple, born in California, 1928. William Shakespeare, English poet, playwright. He dies at about the age of 52, but he was... Did he die on this day? No, he was born on this day in 1564. Yeah, born 1564 on this day. Jesus Christ, according to Isaac Newton, Sir Isaac Newton, Jesus Christ is crucified on this day in 34 AD. Don't know how he would know. Singer Julie Garland appears in concert at Carnegie Hall The event is recorded for a double live album, wins Grammy Award for Album of the Year, the first such win by a female artist ever. The year was 1961, and this was the day. The launch of the first Soviet communications satellite in 1965, and 303 AD, St. George, Greek official in the Roman army, is beheaded. Doesn't tell me here what he did that was wrong or what they said he did, but he ended up being the patron saint of many lands, including, of course, England. Yeah, Roy Orbison was born. Sandra Dee was born. What else can I tell you? Oh, a friend of mine in radio, Dennis O'Kane, Macquarie newsman in Melbourne, 1947, he was born on this day. And Jim Fixx was born in Queens, New York. He wrote the best-selling book called The Complete Book of Running, 1932. He died, in fact, while he was jogging. Not a good advertisement, Pete.
No.
Don't do that. Thank you very much for being with us. I'm looking forward to having your company Friday at the dining room table, jeremycordeaux.com, 9 to 12, and we'll be back tomorrow. And we're going to have a little break for Anzac Day, but we'll tell you more about that. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux, Peter Clayton behind the camera. Believe in yourself, and thank you for viewing the Court of Public Opinion.